The training room fell silent as Cadet Taman Park stepped onto the combat platform. Around him, dozens of alien cadets watched from the observation deck. Their eyes held the same expression he had seen for months now: doubt, amusement, pity. Across from him stood his opponent, a Kralix warrior named Vorn. The alien towered over Taman by at least 3 feet. His armored hide gleamed under the artificial lights, thick plates that could stop most small arms fire. 4 arms, each corded with muscle that made human bodybuilders look weak. The Kralix were known across the galaxy as the finest warriors in the Coalition. Taman was human. Soft skin, fragile bones, a species that needed to breathe a specific mixture of oxygen and nitrogen just to stay alive. Earth had only joined the Galactic Coalition 15 years ago. Humanity was still the new kid, still trying to prove they belonged among the stars. "Begin," Instructor Vara announced from above. Her 4 arms crossed over her chest as she watched. Vorn moved first, fast for someone his size. He closed the distance in 3 massive strides, his lower arms reaching to grab while his upper arms prepared to strike. Standard Kralix opening. Overwhelming force, immediate domination. Taman didn't try to match his strength. That would be suicide. Instead, he dropped low and rolled left. Vorn's grab found only air. The big alien stumbled slightly, surprised by the speed. The watching cadets murmured. A few laughed. Taman came up on Vorn's right side inside his reach. He struck twice, fast and precise, at the joints where the armor plates met. Not hard enough to cause real damage in a training match, but enough to score points on the sensors. Vorn roared and spun. One massive arm swept toward Taman's head. The human ducked under it, feeling the wind of its passage. He used Vorn's momentum against him, stepping in close and using his leg to trip the warrior. 300 pounds of armored alien hit the mat with a crash that shook the platform. The observation deck went completely silent. Taman stepped back, hands raised in a ready position. Vorn climbed to his feet slowly, his 4 eyes fixed on the human. For a moment, Taman thought he saw something dangerous flash in that gaze, something beyond the training exercise. "Enough," Instructor Vara called. "Point to Cadet Park. Well fought, both of you." Vorn said nothing as he left the platform, but Taman felt the weight of his stare. In the locker room after, Taman found his friend Hyori waiting. She was another human cadet, one of only 5 in their entire class of 200. She looked worried. "That was impressive," she said quietly. "But you just embarrassed Vorn in front of everyone." "I fought well," Taman replied, pulling off his training gear. "That's what we're here for. We're here to prove humans can serve in the Coalition military," Hyori corrected. "Not to make enemies," Taman paused. She was right, of course. Every human at the Academy carried the weight of their entire species. One failure could set back Earth's integration by decades. What should I have done? Let him win? No, Hyori sighed. But be careful. I've heard things. Some of the alien cadets don't think we belong here. They think we're too weak, too fragile. They want us to fail. That evening, the cadets gathered in the massive dining hall. Long tables stretched across the room, mostly separated by species. The Kralix sat together, their massive forms requiring specially reinforced chairs. The Istar, serpentine and graceful, coiled around their own section. The Bulwar, the Luminar, dozens of other species all clustering with their own kind. The humans had a small table in the corner, 5 people in a room of 200. Taman ate his meal quietly, listening to the conversations around him. It was easy to pick up the comments, even in different languages. The translation devices they all wore made sure of that. "Soft skins," one alien muttered loud enough to be heard. "One good hit and they break." "Breathers," another added. "Can't even survive in normal atmosphere." "They have such short lives," a third voice chimed in. "What, 70 years, 80? They'll be dead before they finish one tour of duty." Hyori's jaw tightened. The other 3 human cadets looked down at their food. Taman kept eating, his face calm. Getting angry would only prove their point. After dinner, Ambassador Kyung-soo arrived at the Academy. He was an older man, gray-haired and dignified, one of Earth's representatives to the Galactic Coalition. He met with the human cadets in a private room. "I've heard good reports about your progress," he said, smiling at each of them. "You're representing humanity well." "They don't want us here," one of the other cadets said bluntly. "Half the aliens in this place think we're a joke." Kyung-soo's smile faded. "I know. Believe me, I deal with it every day in the council chambers. Earth is still the newest member of the Coalition. We have to prove ourselves, and that takes time. How much time? Hiyori asked. How many years of being called soft skins and breathers before they accept us? As long as it takes, the ambassador replied firmly. Our ancestors spent 10,000 years proving themselves on Earth. We can be patient with the galaxy. He turned to Taimin. I heard about your match today. Defeating Vorn was impressive. Just training, sir, Taimin said. Perhaps, but symbols matter. Every time you succeed, you show them what humans can do. Kyung-soo paused. The trial of worthiness is coming up in 2 weeks. You all know what that means. The room grew tense. The trial was legendary at the Academy. A 72-hour survival mission on Targus 7, a hostile moon with extreme temperatures, toxic atmosphere pockets, and dangerous predators. Every cadet had to complete it to graduate. Humans have never attempted the trial before, Kyung-soo continued. The instructors wanted to give you another year of training, but I argued against it. I said you were ready. He looked at each of them. Was I right? Yes, sir, they answered together. Good, because the entire coalition will be watching. If you succeed, it opens doors. If you fail, he didn't need to finish that sentence. After the ambassador left, Hiyori pulled Taimin aside. I need to tell you something, she said quietly. I've been hearing rumors. Some of the alien cadets are planning something during the trial. Planning what? They want to test us. Test humans. Show that we don't belong. She looked around to make sure no one was listening. I heard Vorn's name mentioned. And 4 others. They're planning to work together, even though the trial is supposed to be individual. Taimin felt something cold settle in his stomach. To do what? I don't know exactly. But Taimin, if 5 experienced alien warriors decide to come after you on Targus 7... She didn't finish. She didn't have to. The next week passed in a blur of preparation. Taimin studied everything he could find about Targus 7. The temperature swings from burning hot during the day to freezing at night, the acid pools that could eat through metal, the native predators with their razor-sharp claws. He also studied his fellow cadets. Forn, the Kralix warrior he had defeated, Sylth, a Yistar known for her speed and venom, twin Bulwar brothers named Drak and Grak who fought with perfect coordination, and Ezra, a crystalline luminar who could manipulate energy itself. If Hiyori was right, these 5 were planning something. And on Targus 7, far from instructors and oversight, anything could happen during the trial. Combat incidents were expected. Accidents occurred. Cadets had died on Targus 7 before. On the night before the trial, Taimin stood at the observation window of his quarters looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, the small blue world where humanity had been born, a world where his grandfather had served in the military, fighting other humans in wars that seemed so small now compared to the scale of the galaxy. His grandfather had told him stories once before he died, stories about soldiers who faced impossible odds and survived, about the human capacity to endure, to adapt, to overcome. We're not the strongest, his grandfather had said. We're not the fastest or the toughest. But we're still here, Taimin. After everything Earth threw at us, we're still here. You remember that? Taimin touched the window, the cold glass against his palm. Tomorrow he would find out if 5 alien warriors were really coming for him. If they wanted to prove that humans didn't belong in the stars. If they did, he would show them what his grandfather meant. He would show them that humans were still here for a reason. The stars glittered in the darkness, cold and distant, waiting. The drop pod shook violently as it entered Targus 7's atmosphere. Taimin gripped the safety restraints, watching through the small window as the moon's surface rushed up to meet him. Red Rock Canyon stretched as far as he could see, cut through with deep shadows and the occasional glint of acid pools. The pod's computer spoke in a calm voice. Impact in 30 seconds. Prepare for landing. Taimin checked his equipment one last time. Environmental suit sealed and functioning. Oxygen mix correct for human breathing. Water recycler active. Emergency beacon within reach. Survival knife strapped to his thigh. Everything he needed to survive 72 hours in hell. The pod hit the ground hard enough to rattle his teeth. The door blew open with a hiss of pressure equalizing. Hot air flooded in, carrying the sharp smell of sulfur and rock. Taimin stepped out onto Targus 7. The canyon stretched before him, walls rising hundreds of feet on either side. The sun beat down from above, already pushing temperatures toward dangerous levels. He could see his first objective marked on his suit's display, a beacon 3 kilometers to the north. He started walking, keeping to the shadows where he could. The suit's cooling system hummed. working to keep his body temperature stable. This was the easy part, he knew. The first day, the first beacon. Things would get harder. What he didn't know was that 5 kilometers away, in a different part of the canyon system, 5 alien cadets were meeting exactly as planned. Vorn arrived first, his massive form casting a long shadow. Then came Sylth, sliding silently over the rocks. The Bulwar twins, Drak and Grak, dropped from a ledge above. Finally, Ezra materialized, his crystalline body reflecting the harsh sunlight in rainbow patterns. "Everyone made it," Vorn said, his voice a deep rumble. "Good. This is against the rules," Ezra pointed out. His voice sounded like wind chimes. "The trial is meant to be completed individually." "The rules say we cannot help each other complete the trial," Vorn replied. "We're not doing that. We have a different mission." "The human," Sylth hissed, her forked tongue tasting the air. "Cadet Park." "He embarrassed me in front of the entire academy," Vorn said. "But this isn't about revenge. This is about proving a point. Humans don't belong in the coalition military. They're too weak, too fragile. One real test and they break." Drak nodded, his 6 limbs shifting. "Soft skins have no place among warriors." "So we teach him a lesson," Grak added. "Nothing fatal. Just enough to make him call for emergency extraction. Fail the trial. Go back to Earth where his kind belongs." "And if he doesn't call for extraction?" Ezra asked. Vorn's 4 eyes gleamed. "Then we make sure he understands he made a mistake coming here." They pulled up their displays, checking Timon's last known position. The academy required all cadets to have tracking devices during the trial, for safety purposes. Those same devices would lead them right to their target. "He's moving toward the northern beacon," Sylth observed. "Smart route, staying in the shade." "We split up," Vorn decided. "Surround him. Box him in. By nightfall tomorrow, we corner him and finish this." The 5 aliens moved out, each taking a different path through the canyons. Tamon reached his first beacon 3 hours later. It was mounted on a tall rock spire, requiring a climb. He took his time, testing each handhold. The rock was hot enough to burn through his gloves if he wasn't careful. At the top, he retrieved the beacon and attached it to his belt. 1 down, 2 to go. His display updated, showing the location of the next beacon 15 kilometers to the east. As he climbed down, something caught his eye. Disturbed dust at the base of the spire. Boot prints, but not human. Too large, with the wrong pattern. Fresh, no more than an hour old. Someone else had been here. Checking the beacon? Following him? Tamon knelt, examining the tracks more carefully. Kralix, if he recognized the pattern correctly. But the second beacon was in a completely different direction. Why would another cadet come this way? Unless they weren't after the beacons. He stood slowly, scanning the canyon around him. Nothing moved except the shimmer of heat rising from the rocks. But the feeling of being watched settled over him like a weight. Hiyori's warning echoed in his mind. 5 alien cadets planning something. Tamon started moving again, but now he paid more attention to his surroundings. He varied his pace, took unexpected turns, doubled back occasionally. All the things his instructors had taught about moving through hostile territory. The sun was setting when he found a defensible position for the night. A narrow cave in the canyon wall. He checked it thoroughly for predators before settling in. As darkness fell, the temperature plummeted. Within an hour, it had dropped from burning hot to below freezing. Tamon activated his suit's heating elements and ate a ration pack. Through the cave mouth, he could see the stars emerging. Thousands of them, more than could ever be seen from Earth's cities. Beautiful and cold. He tried to sleep, but couldn't. Every sound made him alert, every shadow seemed to move. After his second hour of trying, he gave up and checked his equipment display. That's when he saw it. 5 dots on his tracker, all moving in his general direction, all closer than they should be if they were just pursuing their own beacons. His stomach tightened. Hiyori had been right. Tamon pulled up detailed information on each dot. The tracker could identify cadets by their suit signatures. Vorn, Sylth, Drak, Grak, Ezra, the same 5 aliens he had suspected. They were spread out in a loose net, but all converging on his position. By tomorrow afternoon, they would have him boxed in. He had 2 choices. Call for emergency extraction now. Fail the trial. Prove everyone right about humans being too weak. Or face 5 trained alien warriors alone on a hostile moon. Some choice. Tamon leaned back against the cave wall, thinking. His instructors had taught him about tactics, strategy, using terrain to advantage. But they had also taught him something else. Something that every human soldier throughout history had learned. Sometimes the only way to survive was to stop being the prey. He looked at his display again, studying the positions of the 5 aliens. They were hunting him, confident in their numbers and strength. They thought they knew what humans were capable of. They were wrong. Taemin's grandfather had told him stories about wars on Earth, about soldiers outnumbered and surrounded, about desperate last stands and impossible victories. But the stories he remembered best were the ones about persistence, about soldiers who refused to quit, who kept fighting when any sane person would have surrendered. "We're not the strongest," his grandfather had said, "but we're the most stubborn." Taemin began to plan. 5 aliens were hunting him, but they didn't really know him. They didn't know humans. They saw soft skin and thought weakness. They saw short lifespans and thought fragility. They had never seen what humans could do when pushed into a corner. By dawn, his plan was ready. He wouldn't run to the next beacon. He wouldn't try to avoid them. Instead, he would do something they wouldn't expect. He would go hunting. Taemin packed his gear and checked his knife. The canyon system was vast, full of narrow passages and dead ends. Perfect for someone who knew the terrain. Perfect for turning hunters into prey. He looked at the 5 dots on his display one more time. They were closer now, tightening the net. "Come on then," he whispered to the empty cave. "Let's see who walks away." As the sun rose over Targus 7, painting the canyon walls red and gold, Cadet Taemin Park disappeared into the maze of stone. Behind him, 5 alien warriors followed, confident in their strength and numbers. None of them knew that everything was about to change. None of them understood what they had started. They thought they were teaching a lesson to one weak human. They were about to learn one instead. The trial had begun, but the real test wasn't about surviving Targus 7's dangers. It was about surviving each other. And in the deep canyons of that hostile moon, under an alien sun, a very old human truth was about to be proven once again. Humans don't quit. 36 hours into the trial, and Sylth was getting frustrated. The human had vanished into the canyon system like smoke. Every time she thought she had his trail, it went cold. Every time the 5 of them closed in on his last known position, they found nothing but empty rock. "He's running," Vorn growled over the communication channel. "Scared?" "Maybe," Sylth replied, her serpentine body coiled on a high ledge. "Or maybe he knows we're hunting him." "Impossible," Ezra's crystalline voice chimed in. "He can't know we're working together. Even if he suspects, he's alone against 5. The logical choice is to keep moving, try to complete the trial, hope we don't find him." Drock's voice crackled through. "Crack and I found his campsite from last night. He's heading deeper into the canyon network." "The caves," Vorn said with satisfaction. "Perfect. We corner him there and end this." What none of them realized was that Taemin had left that campsite for them to find. The tracks leading to the caves were deliberate. He wasn't running anymore. He was setting the trap. The cave system on Targus 7 was vast, stretching deep into the moon's crust. Taemin had spent the last 12 hours exploring it, memorizing every passage, every turn, every dead end. He knew this place now. It was his ground. The first one to enter was Ezra. The Luminar could see in the dark, his crystalline body generating its own soft light. He moved confidently into the caves, energy crackling between his fingers, ready for anything. Taemin waited in the shadows above, pressed flat against a ledge. He watched Ezra pass beneath him, watched the other 4 aliens enter one by one. Good. They were all inside now. He picked up a fist-sized rock and threw it hard into a side passage. It clattered against stone, echoing through the caves. "There!" Vorn shouted. "That passage." They ran toward the sound. Taemin dropped down behind them and sprinted in the opposite direction. He had studied the cave structure carefully. He knew where the weak points were, where the ceiling was cracked and unstable. He reached the spot he wanted and began pounding on a support pillar with another rock. The impacts echoed through the caves. The aliens heard it and changed direction, coming back toward him. Perfect timing. Taemin hit the pillar one more time, right on the fracture line he had identified. Then he ran. Behind him, the ceiling groaned. Ezra, leading the group, looked up just in time to see cracks spreading across the stone above. "Back!" he shouted, too late. The ceiling collapsed with a roar that shook the entire cave system. Tons of rock crashed down, separating Ezra from the other 4. Dust filled the passage, thick enough to choke on. When it settled, Ezra was alone on one side of the collapse. The others were on the far side, their voices muffled by the rock between them. "Ezra, can you hear us?" Vorn called. "I'm fine," Ezra replied, coughing. "But I can't get through. I'll have to find another route." "Be careful," Sylth warned. "The human did this deliberately." Ezra turned, his light pushing back the darkness. "Let him try," he said confidently. "I can handle one soft skin." That's when the lights went out. Taman had been waiting in the darkness, his suit's display dimmed to nothing. He had closed his eyes for the past 5 minutes, letting them adjust to the blackness. When Ezra's light vanished, suddenly struck from behind, Taman was ready. The Luminar wasn't. His entire species relied on sight enhanced by their own bioluminescence. In complete darkness, he was blind and helpless. Taman moved by sound and memory. He knew exactly where Ezra was standing. He had a piece of the Luminar's own crystalline body in his hand, broken off during the cave-in, sharp as any knife. The fight was short and brutal. Ezra tried to generate light to blast energy in all directions. But Taman was already inside his reach, too close for the ranged attacks to work. He struck at the joints where Ezra's crystalline segments connected, the weak points. It was like fighting living glass. Every impact sent jolts of pain up Taman's arms. But he kept hitting, kept moving, never letting Ezra recover or retreat. Finally, Ezra fell, his light flickering weakly. He wasn't dead, just unconscious and badly cracked. His emergency beacon would activate automatically and call for extraction. One down. Taman didn't wait. He grabbed Ezra's broken crystal shard and moved deeper into the caves. Behind him, he could hear the other 4 trying to dig through the collapse or find another way around. Let them try. He was going to make them chase him. For the next 6 hours, Taman led them on a chase through the cave system. He never stopped moving, never rested. He climbed through passages so narrow the larger aliens struggled to follow. He waded through underground pools of freezing water, knowing his suit's heating could handle it better than theirs. Every hour, he checked his display. The 4 aliens were still following, but they were slowing down. Getting tired. Good. Humans had evolved as persistence hunters. Back on ancient Earth, before weapons and tools, human ancestors had hunted by simply following prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They weren't faster than antelope or stronger than buffalo, but they could run longer than anything else on the planet. Taman was using the same strategy now. Keep moving, keep them chasing, wear them down. Vorn was the first to realize what was happening. "He's not trying to escape," the Kralix warrior said over the comm. "He's trying to exhaust us." "Impossible," Drock panted. "He's smaller, weaker. He should be more tired than us." "Should be," Sylth agreed. But she was breathing hard too. Her serpentine body not built for extended pursuits through tight spaces. They stopped to rest in a wide chamber, their suits' lights casting strange shadows on the walls. "He has to be exhausted," Grack said. "We've been chasing him for hours." "Maybe he is," Vorn replied. "But he's not stopping." That's when Sylth noticed something. "Where's Drock?" They looked around. The Bulwar twin was sitting against a wall, his 6 limbs trembling with fatigue. His breathing was labored, his suit's medical monitor showing dangerous levels of exhaustion. "I need rest," Drock admitted. "Just a few minutes." Grack moved to his brother's side immediately. "I'm staying with him." Vorn wanted to argue, but he could see it was pointless. The twins fought together or not at all. "Fine, rest here. Sylth and I will continue." Now they were 3. Taman watched from a high ledge as 2 of the aliens stayed behind. He could have tried to take them while they were separated, but that wasn't the plan. The plan was to make them understand. He kept moving, leading Vorn and Sylth deeper into the caves. His legs burned, his lungs ached, and every muscle in his body screamed for rest. But he ignored the pain. Pain was just information. It didn't have to stop you. That's what made humans dangerous. They could feel pain, feel exhaustion, feel every injury, and keep going anyway. Their minds could override their bodies in ways most alien species couldn't understand. Hours passed. The caves grew darker, colder. Targa 7's temperature was dropping as night approached on the surface. Down here, it was even worse. Sylth finally had to stop. "I can't," she hissed. "Too cold. My species needs warmth." Vorn looked at her, then at his display showing Taman's position still moving ahead of them. The human hadn't stopped once since entering the caves. "How?" Vorn whispered. "How is he still going?" Sylth coiled her body to preserve heat. "Call for extraction," she said quietly. "I'll fail the trial, but I'll survive." "I'll find you on the way back," Vorn promised. Then he continued alone, following the lone human through the darkness. Now they were two. Taemin's suit alerted him that he was approaching dangerous levels of exhaustion. His water was low. His oxygen recycler was working overtime. Every part of his body hurt. He checked his display. Only Vorn was still following. Good enough. Taemin led the Kralix warrior to the deepest part of the cave system he had found, a massive chamber where his second beacon waited, mounted high on the wall. This was where it would end. He waited in the darkness, catching his breath, preparing for the final confrontation. When Vorn entered the chamber, his suit light swept across the space. He saw the beacon. He saw Taemin standing beneath it, waiting. "You planned this," Vorn said slowly, understanding dawning. "All of it. The caves, the chase. You weren't running." "No," Taemin replied, his voice hoarse from hours of exertion. "I wasn't." Vorn's four eyes studied the human, the small, fragile creature who had just spent 12 hours leading 5 trained warriors through hell, who had defeated one, separated 2, and exhausted another until only Vorn remained. "Why?" Vorn asked. "You could have called for extraction. Failed the trial, lived." Taemin smiled even though it hurt. "Because that's what you expected. That's what everyone expects from humans, that we'll quit when things get hard." He pulled out his knife, the blade glinting in Vorn's suit lights. "But we don't quit. That's what makes us dangerous." Vorn looked at the knife, then at Taemin's face. The human was exhausted, injured, running on nothing but willpower, but his eyes were clear and determined. "None of us walk away from this," Vorn said quietly. "No," Taemin agreed. "None of us walk away the same." 52 hours into the trial, and Vorn finally understood what he was facing. Not a weak human cadet who would break under pressure. Not prey running scared through the caves. He was facing something that refused to acknowledge defeat. "I respect you," Vorn said, his forearms spreading wide. "You've proven yourself clever, determined. But this ends now. You cannot defeat me in direct combat." Taemin didn't argue. Everything Vorn said was true. The Kralix warrior was stronger, faster, and had 4 arms to Taemin's 2. His armored hide could shrug off blows that would cripple a human. In a straight fight, there was no contest. "Probably not," Taemin admitted. His hand tightened on his knife. "But I don't have to defeat you. I just have to make you understand." "Understand what?" "That humans belong here. In the coalition. Among the stars." Taemin's voice was steady despite his exhaustion. "You came to prove we're too weak. I'm here to prove you wrong." Vorn nodded slowly. There was honor in that, at least. "Then let's finish this properly. No tricks, no traps. Just combat. One condition," Taemin said. "When I win, you listen to what I have to say." Vorn's laugh echoed through the chamber. "When you win? Your confidence is admirable, soft skin." He settled into a fighting stance. "Agreed. If you somehow defeat me, I will listen." They charged at the same moment. Vorn was faster off the mark, closing the distance in 2 massive strides. His upper arms swung in from both sides while his lower arms reached to grapple, a 4-pronged attack that should have ended the fight immediately. Taemin dropped and rolled under the strikes. He came up inside Vorn's reach and drove his knife toward a joint in the armor. Vorn twisted, the blade scraping across his hide but not penetrating. One massive hand grabbed Taemin's wrist. The human was lifted off his feet like a child. Vorn's other arm drew back for a strike that would have shattered ribs. Taemin kicked out, both feet hitting Vorn's center mass. It didn't hurt the warrior, but it pushed him off balance enough that Taemin could twist free. He hit the ground hard, rolled, came up with the knife still in his hand. Vorn pressed the attack, not giving him time to recover. Blow after blow rained down. Taemin blocked what he could, dodged the rest. But some got through. His shoulder took a hit that sent pain shooting down his arm. His ribs cracked under a glancing strike. The medical monitor in his suit screamed warnings. Injury alerts flashed across his display. Any sensible person would have called for extraction. Taemin kept fighting. He couldn't match Vorn's strength, so he didn't try. Instead, he made the Kralix warrior work for every strike. Made him reach, made him turn, made him burn energy with every attack. Taemin took hits but gave ground slowly, drawing the fight out. 5 minutes became 10. 10 became 20. Vorn was breathing harder now. His attacks came slightly slower. Fighting in the thin atmosphere of the caves in the cold after hours of chasing the human was taking its toll. Taemin was in worse shape. His ribs were definitely broken, his shoulder barely functional. Blood ran down his face from a cut above his eye. But he kept moving, kept fighting, kept getting back up every time he went down. Why won't you quit? Vorn demanded, frustration creeping into his voice. Taman spat blood. Because humans don't quit. Another exchange. Taman got inside Vorn's guard and struck at a knee joint. The warrior stumbled. Not much, but enough. He was slowing down. 30 minutes, 40 an hour. This was insane. No fight should last this long. But Taman wouldn't stop, and Vorn's honor wouldn't let him back down from a challenge he had accepted. Finally, after 90 minutes of brutal combat, Vorn's legs gave out. The massive warrior dropped to his knees, his chest heaving. He tried to stand but couldn't. His muscles, pushed beyond their limits, refused to respond. Taman stood over him, swaying on his feet. The knife was still in his hand, but his arm hung limp. He looked down at Vorn through eyes half-closed with exhaustion. "I win," he whispered. Vorn stared up at him in disbelief. "How? You're smaller, weaker. You should have fallen first." "Should have," Taman agreed. He slid down the wall to sit, lacking the strength to stand any longer. But humans evolved different. We can push past pain, past exhaustion, past what our bodies say is possible. It's how we survived on Earth. He gestured weakly around the cave. "You're stronger than me, faster, tougher, but I can outlast you. That's what makes humans dangerous." Vorn was silent for a long moment. Then, "You could have killed us." Ezra in the darkness, the twins while they rested, Sylth when she was cold and vulnerable, me right now. "Yes," Taman said simply. "Why didn't you?" "Because you're not my enemy." Taman leaned his head back against the rock. "You're my fellow cadet. Maybe one day my brother in arms. I just needed you to see that humans aren't your enemy either." Understanding dawned in Vorn's eyes. "You let me follow you. Let me exhaust myself." "All to prove a point?" "To prove we belong," Taman corrected. On Earth, humans fought each other for thousands of years. War after war after war. We learned everything there is to know about combat, about survival, about what it takes to win. He looked at Vorn. But we also learned when to stop fighting, when to make allies instead of enemies. Vorn tried to stand again and managed it this time, though his legs shook. "The others. We need to help them." Taman nodded and pushed himself to his feet, gasping at the pain. Together, moving slowly, they made their way back through the caves. They found Sylth first, coiled in a ball, her emergency beacon not yet activated but close. Vorn wrapped her in a thermal blanket from his pack. "We're here," he told her. "It's over." Next were the twins, Drock and Grak, still together where they had stopped. Both looked up as Taman and Vorn approached. "You beat him?" Drock asked in disbelief. "He beat all of us," Vorn replied. "But he could have killed us. Instead, he's helping us survive." The 5 aliens looked at the human, really looked at him. Small, fragile, barely standing, but still moving, still helping, refusing to quit. "I don't understand," Grak said. "Why?" Taman smiled despite the pain. "Because in a few months, we graduate. We get assigned to ships, to units, to missions, and I'd rather have you as friends than enemies. I'd rather serve beside warriors who respect me than ones who think I'm weak." He sat down heavily, his strength finally giving out. "You wanted to prove humans don't belong in the coalition military. I wanted to prove we do. That we bring something valuable. Not physical strength, but something else. Endurance, determination, the refusal to give up even when we should." Vorn pulled out his communicator. "I'm calling for extraction. For all of us." "Wait," Taman said. "I still need to get my 3rd beacon. I'm not failing this trial." "You have 2 broken ribs, a concussion, and probably internal bleeding," Sylth pointed out. "I know." Taman pulled up his display, checking the location of the final beacon. "It's only 8 kilometers from here. I can make it." "This is insane." Ezra's voice came through the comm. He had woken up, his emergency extraction on its way. "You've already proven your point." "Not until I complete the trial," Taman insisted. "Not until I do what I came here to do." Vorn studied him for a moment, then did something that surprised everyone. He offered Taman his hand. "Then we help you, together." "The trial is individual," Drock protested. "The trial is over," Vorn replied. "This is something else. This is respect." They moved through the caves as a group, supporting each other. When Taman stumbled, Vorn steadied him. When Sylth grew cold again, Grak shared his warmth. They emerged from the caves into the harsh daylight of Targus 7's surface. The final beacon was visible in the distance, mounted on a cliff edge. Taman looked at it, looked at the aliens around him, and felt something shift in his chest. Not pain this time, but something else. Pride maybe, or hope. Let's finish this, he said. They walked together across the red rocks toward the beacon, and toward something none of them had expected when the trial began. Not victory, not defeat, but understanding. 5 aliens had surrounded a human cadet in those caves, but the one who walked out wasn't the same person who went in. None of them were. 3 weeks after the trial, Taemin stood before a tribunal in the Academy's largest hall. His ribs were still healing, held together with medical tape and determination. Beside him stood Vorn, Silth, Drak, Grak, and Ezra. All 6 of them wore their cadet uniforms. All 6 looked nervous. The tribunal consisted of 5 senior officers from different coalition species. At the center sat Instructor Vera, her forearms folded across her chest. Her expression was unreadable. "Let me understand this correctly," Vara said, her voice echoing in the silent hall. "The 5 of you conspired to hunt down Cadet Park during the trial. You coordinated your efforts, shared information, and deliberately attempted to force him into emergency extraction." "Yes, ma'am," Vorn said clearly. The others nodded. "This is a serious violation of Academy rules. The trial is meant to be completed individually. Working together to eliminate another cadet is grounds for immediate expulsion, possibly criminal charges." Ambassador Kyung-soo stood from where he had been sitting in the observer section. "If I may speak, honored tribunal." Vera gestured permission. "Before you pass judgment, I ask that you hear from Cadet Park himself." Kyung-soo looked at Taemin. "He has something to say." Taemin stepped forward, trying not to wince. Public speaking had never been his strength, but this was important. "Honored tribunal, I request that no charges be filed against my fellow cadets." Murmurs rippled through the observers. Even Vara's eyebrows raised. "You request mercy for those who hunted you?" another tribunal member asked. "I request understanding," Taemin replied. "Yes, they came after me. Yes, they wanted to prove that humans don't belong in the coalition military. But they taught me something important, and I hope I taught them something too." He gestured to the 5 aliens beside him. "They showed me how the galaxy sees humanity. As weak, as fragile, as unworthy. That's a truth we need to face, not hide from. And in facing it, in surviving it, I showed them what humans really are." "Which is?" Vara asked quietly. "Survivors, adapters, warriors in our own way." Taemin met her eyes. "They gave me a test I wasn't supposed to pass. When I did, they learned that maybe humans bring something valuable to the coalition after all." Vorn stepped forward. "Permission to speak, ma'am?" Vara nodded. "We were wrong," Vorn said simply. "We judged humans based on appearance, on assumptions. Cadet Park defeated us not through strength but through strategy, endurance, and something we didn't expect. Mercy." He looked at Taemin. "He could have killed me in those caves. Instead, he saved my life. All our lives. That taught me more about humanity than any data file could." "He fought for 90 minutes straight," Vorn continued, "with broken ribs and a concussion. Any of us would have quit. He didn't. That's not weakness. That's the opposite of weakness." Silth spoke next, her voice soft. "I nearly died from the cold in those caves. The human who had every reason to leave me came back. Brought help. Saved me." She looked at the tribunal. "We came to prove humans don't belong here. We proved the opposite." The tribunal members conferred quietly among themselves. Finally, Vara spoke. "This is highly irregular. However, given the circumstances in Cadet Park's testimony, we will treat this as a training exercise gone wrong rather than a criminal matter." She looked at each of them in turn. "You will all complete additional ethics training and serve academic probation for the remainder of the term. But you will not be expelled." Relief washed over the aliens' faces. Taemin felt tension he didn't know he was carrying drain away. "However," Vera continued, and the room fell silent again, "this incident has raised important questions about human integration into our military forces. Questions that need answers." She stood, her considerable height making everyone look up. "Cadet Park, your performance in the trial was exceptional, not just in survival, but in demonstrating something we had not properly considered. Human endurance, both physical and mental, far exceeds what we anticipated." Vara walked down from the tribunal platform, approaching the cadets directly. "I was wrong about humans. I believed you were too fragile for military service. You proved that fragility and weakness are not the same thing." She stopped in front of Taemin. I would like to personally train the human cadets for the remainder of your time here. If you'll accept. Taman couldn't keep the surprise off his face. I would be honored, ma'am. Good. Vera turned to the 5 aliens. And I expect all of you to continue working with Cadet Park. You've learned something together. Don't waste it. In the weeks that followed, something changed at the Academy. Word of what happened on Targus 7 spread. First through the cadets, then to the instructors, then beyond to the wider coalition. The story grew in the telling, as stories do. Some versions were accurate. Others were exaggerated. But the core truth remained. 5 alien warriors had tried to break one human cadet, and instead they became his greatest advocates. Vorn became Taman's constant training partner. They sparred almost daily. The massive Kralix warrior teaching the human about close combat while learning human tactical thinking in return. You fight like someone 3 times your size, Vorn observed after one session. Where does that confidence come from? Earth, Taman replied, catching his breath. My grandfather told me stories about the wars there. About soldiers who faced impossible odds and survived. Humans have been fighting for survival for our entire history. We got good at it. Sylth approached Hiyori one day in the dining hall, her approach cautious. May I sit? Hiyori looked up, surprised. Of course. They talked awkwardly at first, but gradually understanding grew. Sylth wanted to learn about human culture, about Earth. Hiyori was happy to teach. Soon the human table in the dining hall wasn't just for humans anymore. Drak and Grak started teaching other cadets about the trial, about what they learned. Humans are different, Drak would say. Not weaker. Different, they bring different strengths. Ezra, once he recovered from his injuries, threw himself into studying human history. He was fascinated by Earth's wars, by the tactics and strategies that humans had developed over thousands of years. Your species spent 10 millennia fighting itself, he said to Taman one day, his crystalline voice full of wonder. You learned every possible way to wage war, to survive, to overcome. And then you decided to cooperate instead. That's remarkable. The changes spread beyond the Academy. Ambassador Kyung-Soo reported them to Earth with pride. Coalition military leadership took notice. Applications from humans to military service quadrupled. But more than that, other species began studying human capabilities seriously. The endurance, the pain tolerance, the ability to keep functioning when injured or exhausted, the tactical creativity that came from having faced every possible combat scenario somewhere in Earth's history. Humans weren't just physically different. They thought differently. 10,000 years of constant warfare had forged a species that understood conflict in ways the relatively peaceful coalition had never needed to. That's our value, Kyung-Soo explained in a council meeting. We don't bring superior technology or physical might. We bring experience, hard-won experience in survival and war and eventually peace, lessons learned in blood that other species never had to pay for. Instructor Vara implemented new training protocols based on what she learned from Taman, mixed species units, cross-training in different combat philosophies, integration rather than separation. We made the mistake of thinking strength only comes in one form, she told her fellow instructors. The Kralix have physical power. The Luminar have energy manipulation. Humans have endurance and tactical creativity. All of these are valuable. All of these are strength. Graduation came at the end of the term. Taman stood with his class wearing his dress uniform, feeling pride he couldn't quite put into words. Not just for himself, but for what they had all achieved together. When his name was called, the entire class stood and applauded. Even the aliens who had once looked at humans with doubt or contempt joined in. He had earned their respect the hard way, but the moment that meant the most came after, when Instructor Vara presented special commendations. Squad 7, she announced. Cadets Taman, Vorn, Sylth, Drak, Grak, Ezra, and Hiyori. The first integrated human-alien combat unit in Coalition history. The 7 of them stood together, receiving their honors. A Kralix warrior, a Ysatar scout, twin Bulwar soldiers, a Luminar technician, and 2 humans. You will be assigned to the ship Harmony, Vera continued. Your mission will be to demonstrate the effectiveness of integrated units, to show the galaxy what we can achieve when we work together. That night, the squad gathered in their common room one last time before shipping out. They shared stories, made plans, laughed about the trial that had brought them together. I still can't believe you fought Vorn for 90 minutes with broken ribs, Ezra said, shaking his crystalline head. I can't believe you all helped me reach that final beacon, Taemin replied. After everything, you were our squad mate, Vorn said simply. That matters more than pride. Yori raised her glass. To Squad 7, may we prove that together we're stronger than apart. They all raised their glasses and drank.